I just wanted to provide a little bit of information about my favorite nerd tool out there. I love LinkedIn. And tell you a little bit about myself. I am a gaucho through and through. Graduated in 2011 with my degree in Chicano Studies, Education and Applied Psychology. And immediately following graduation, I went off to San Diego State, a little different. Try to go see SoCal, and got my master's degree in post-secondary educational leadership with the emphasis in student affairs. And I am back. So I am actually a new professional here on campus and just started early September. Okay, I'm gonna have to click. Okay, so I have a couple goals that I wanted to identify for today and really want this to be a conversation. So if you have any questions as I go through some of the information, go ahead and go for it. But these are some of the ideas that I wanted to cover, and it's just learning tips on how to use LinkedIn as a professional portfolio, describe how LinkedIn can benefit you as you build your professional identity and your digital reputation, and give some concrete examples of mostly how I'm using it, and maybe inspire some ideas on how you all can build yours. A little bit about LinkedIn. They have a national headquarters. It has grown dramatically in the past couple years. Their mission statement is to, plain and simple, connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So when you join LinkedIn, and just by show of hands, how many of you have a LinkedIn account? Pretty much everyone. Okay, good. So you may have seen that there's been a huge shift in the way that they're designing, disseminating information, providing you opportunities to really create this resource, design it however it is that you want to. So in 2008, they had approximately 32 million members, and last year alone, they jumped up to 277 million. So it's growing rapidly, and I think it's gonna keep growing. As I was preparing for this presentation, I started reflecting on, I guess, my LinkedIn journey, and what is it that I personally use LinkedIn for? And I thought about these three things. You're building an identity, you're establishing a network, and you're disseminating knowledge, or maybe even collecting knowledge too. And I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into that. When we talk about identity, there's a couple key things to always make sure that you have available on your profile. Those are kind of the basics. Your photo, make sure it's a professional headshot, and I know we are taking headshots today, if you have one. Not the cropped pictures. I think the most common picture that I've seen is probably like a good picture of someone at a bar, and just the cropped image with another hand around the shoulder. You're trying to find a way to create this in a more professional light and something that's memorable. Across all my social media sites, I have the same picture through and through. Might be a little old, so maybe I'll get a new one today. But it's a way of establishing that identity across the board. Your headline should be something that stands out, is about the work that you do, excuse me, or is about some of the work that you're excited about learning about. And your summary, I'll go into more detail, but it could be a brief summary describing your professional background, what is it that you're about. I like including typology assessments like the Myers-Briggs or StrengthsQuest, because I figure there's other essay nerds out there who understand what I'm talking about. And it also attracts them to my profile. They're like, StrengthsQuest crazy. Your experience, listing all the jobs that you've had and descriptions of each role. I know I have, I think, pretty much every position I've ever held listed on there. You never know if someone has something in common with you. You're shaking your head. Too many? It could be something more specific to the field, however it is that you want to frame it to keep building those connections. Your education. LinkedIn is the best place for, gotcha. is the best place for you to really showcase your professional self, toot your own horn, put everything on there, your awards, your successes. It's a shameless way of promoting yourself. There's opportunities to put skills and expertise that also form keywords when people are searching. Recommendations, endorsements are shorter, almost shorter letters of rec, but could be in a short paragraph of just promoting your work. And your vanity URL, which is my favorite, of creating. When you first get into LinkedIn, it has like a random URL connecting you with like letters and numbers. You can change that specifically to your name and own it. Yeah.
About endorsements, I am at LinkedIn with some folks I've never met in my life,
Yes.
but we're sort of in similar fields, and then they start endorsing me for things that, like, I've never even done that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that because you don't know me.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that sounds
like grant writing.
What do you do with all these endorsements? I mean.
Yeah, I've had that before too, where I'm like, people are trying to give me credit on grant writing. And I'm like, I've never done that in my life. You actually have the opportunity of, as soon as you get endorsed, you can reject it and just say, don't display on my profile.
Do they know if you've rejected it?
No.
Okay.
More. Yeah. Endorsements are relatively new in the past couple years. And what happens is usually if they're visiting somebody's profile or if they're visiting yours, it pops up automatically up top and it's like, would you like to endorse them on leadership development, grant development, da 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 da. And usually they'll just click okay or yes to get rid of it, but it keeps going. So what you can do if you get the endorsements that you feel are not representing you, just go ahead and take it off. Because where it's populating from is from your skills. The listed skills that you have is what the auto-populating endorsements are coming from. Yeah, so they won't know.
I have a LinkedIn account, but I haven't looked at it in a decade. Do you recommend starting over?
No.
Or just start with what you have?
Keep going with what you have.
Okay.
You started at a certain point and you have some information on there that's obviously relevant to you. Go ahead, you can go in, it's very easy to edit and modify.
Okay.
Bake Danielle cookies and maybe she'll hang out.
Chocolate chip, a little crispy. And I want to challenge you all to max out your profile. So beyond the basics of, the headline and that information that you hear, you have the opportunity of really being creative with your profile now. What is it that you're all about? And again, I mentioned I put my typology assessments in there. I've added strengths, other strengths, and values in my summary. And I've even found that you can attach a link or a file to each of your sections to personalize it more. So I use Prezi to promote myself again and to link that to my summary. It's a fun way of looking at a desktop with coffee, because I'm a coffee connoisseur, and just going through the same information that's already on LinkedIn, but it's good to be redundant and keep showing yourself there. Bloggers, if you have a blog, you can attach that information on there as well. And again, it's a place for you to showcase your education, your experience, and your accomplishments. For my graduate program, we were required to do a learning portfolio. I attached it to my LinkedIn. Like, this hard work, I'm not going to show it just to these 3 people who are telling me if I deserve this degree or not. I'm going to show it off, and LinkedIn is the place to do it. You can also get your colleagues, classmates to provide quick recommendations and have that listed under your education. It's kind of fun to play with. Networking. I think all forms of social media are all about networking, and how is it that you're connecting with professionals in the field or sometimes out of your network, as LinkedIn terms, and learning about people across the world. So there are ways of going into your connections and seeing who is it that you already know. You can auto-populate your Gmail account or whichever email account to add those connections. You can also use LinkedIn to tell you people who you may know, and those are usually your second and third connections. And my recommendation with this too is, as soon as you get connections or as soon as you are trying to send an invite, provide personal messages. I don't know about you all, I get ticked off every time I see a general, you're someone that I trust on LinkedIn and let's connect. You can go back in and create more of a customized personal message so you actually know the person, because sometimes I have those people too who I don't know who they are. And I'm starting to even do this like a connection purge. I'm like, do I really know you? Are you benefiting me? I think I'm gonna take you off my LinkedIn. You could do that. Yeah.
Now, so this is an area that is out of control for me. I don't really use LinkedIn very much, but my profile's pretty developed. I think this is, I'm 80% there.
Okay.
But I think, you know, half the students who ever see my name, which is probably most of them, have included me in their LinkedIn. And so I've been very liberal and accepting of you. And then I think that, so my question's around, you said second or third connection.
Yeah, sorry.
I have a lot of people that why are they LinkedIn me? Like,
Yeah.
from anywhere. And then I've accepted a lot of them, I'm like, whatever. Because Facebook, I'm really particular,
Yeah.
and I have to know who they are. But LinkedIn, I've kind of been very liberal. So if I went to go purge, it would just probably start over. My question is, what is second and third
Yeah.
connections? And, you know, something else I wanted to throw out there, I get a lot of people wanting me to endorse them, which is very
Yeah.
interesting. I'm like, okay, that name's familiar. Did I have them as a student? Who are they?
Yeah.
I'm just throwing all of that out there when it comes to connections and being picky or not. And then other people, one other thing that I've noticed, people will say, hey, Katya, I see that so-and-so's one of your connections. Can you link me to them?
Yes.
So that's
Okay. That's a lot. But all very manageable. So I think with all forms of social media, there is a sense of intentionality of using each. Your first connections are people who you are immediately connected to. The second connections are the connections that they are connected to, so that you are, it's almost like degrees of separation. Your third even further out. Usually you just get the first and the second. And that idea is, LinkedIn really likes the idea of showing you your first connections and how many other people you're connected to. You're connected to millions and da-da-da-da. So that's kind of what that is. And
So
when...
perhaps it's those second connections that maybe saw one of my connections.
Exactly.
And like, oh, I remember.
And they want you to introduce you to them. Yeah. So that's why I was talking about going through and possibly purging those connections. Because now it's becoming increasingly popular of trying to help a student, and I'm looking at my LinkedIn and they want to get connected to this person who works at Disney. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't remember them, but let me contact them. Or starting off in a way of, if you don't know the student or the person, sending them a direct message through the in-mail and saying, please remind me where I know you from. And then the ball's back in their court. If they respond, then you can accept them if you remember them. If not, then on to the next.
Okay.
It's developing an intentional way of using LinkedIn for its purpose. Because if not, then you will get the headache of more students trying to get connected in LinkedIn. It could get pretty tedious. It sounds like you're at that point. We will talk. So connecting is a huge part, but it's also the knowledge part. There is a way to learn from your network, and using the idea of companies and groups, which is another kind of new feature, where you can follow companies like lynda.com, and you can see, I don't know if you guys can see up in this section, I'm connected to one person who works there. That's pretty cool to know. So I know someone who's directly there. And then it'll go into those second connections and third connections to let you know how connected are you to the company, what types of statistics and what type of information can you get from there. And you learn about ways of disseminating information, articles, research, things that they're publishing that you can then share with your network. It's a lot of ways of just sharing information. And groups, I put 2 shameless plugs there's ways of joining already established groups, but you can also create your own. And I have one for Gauchos and Student Affairs, so any Gaucho alumni, who are working in student affairs at different campuses, they are more than welcome to join the group. And a Gaucho U project that I'm working on, the Gaucho Mentorship Connection, which is a mentorship program for staff. And I thought, great, so this is a professional way of connecting with our colleagues and disseminating information instead of using Facebook. Just another alternative. And there's a fun way of monitoring, mine are all pretty low, but monitoring your contribution level to the group. Similar to what Katya had mentioned, when you log into your LinkedIn profile and it'll say you're a rock star or you're 80% there or 50% there, whatever it is. It'll measure, it helps measure your contribution and your activity. Yeah.
This is kind of a general question. I mean, as with everything, identity's online, this is like a full-time job. and yet another full-time job, presenting yourself to the world. But I'm curious, what has been your personal kind of payback for all this energy that you've now put into this? Just some examples. I'm thinking.
Great question. I can tell you, I use some cheating ways of making it look like I'm online. I use other programs like Hootsuite to auto-populate posts, status updates to my LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And I mean, I think I did that for this week. I wasn't even here at 11 and I already posted. I'm so happy to be here. CommCollab. So there's ways of using other forms of social media to auto-populate and send those things for you. But for me, with my LinkedIn profile, I use it more than Facebook, to be honest. Because I find that I get so much more information, more valuable information, using this than other forms.
So what kinds of information? Is this from other people that you're linked with? Mm-hmm. They are communicating with you?
Other people in my network. There's also following influencers. So people who are very popular in certain sections, I don't know, like higher ed leaders or social media leaders, and I'll follow them and I'll start getting their notifications in my in the home feed. But one of the best ways too is, I know a lot of people think that LinkedIn is for job searching. It really isn't. I'm not job searching. Not job searching. But I intentionally, at first while I was in my program, that's more so why I kept building the portfolio basis of just showcasing this, showcasing that. But there are times where you will get recruited by companies. I got an email from Google that said, your profile looks like what we want in this position. Are you interested in working for Google? And I said no. I was like, I'm working at UCSB.
And something else that Danielle's really interested, one of the things she does is work with leadership development in our office. And so she's always sharing with us articles that are coming out. She's very connected with NASPA, nationally and regionally. So I see her use it, like pulling in information. She soaks it up. She's kind of a junkie that way. And then she shares it with us. So I know she uses it a lot to collect that information and to stay on top of her field.
And just as you mentioned that, there are professional competencies. We worked on this, didn't we, Katya? There are professional competencies for student affairs practitioners. I don't know if you all have ever seen the publication. It was designed in 2009, 2010, and I try to link anything that I do back to those professional competencies, which I've also uploaded to the, what is it called? Base Camp. That one's new. And I try to keep that intentional, like what is it that I'm posting that's benefiting my network, and how is it that my network's benefiting me and my campus? And when I started looking over the competencies, is a joint publication between NASPA and ACPA. And there's 10 overall competencies, and it goes into, you know, your basic, intermediate, and advanced, and kind of topics and points on how to build those competencies in your work. And I thought, you know, LinkedIn is great for showcasing your leadership, your personal foundations, and personal foundations is more about the knowledge, skills, attitudes that help maintain emotional, physical, social, intellectual wellness, the reflection piece, which is why I connect it to a blog, which is not that active, but as well as student learning development. And I know this is something that I feel like we learned so much about in our grad programs is student development theory, and how is it that you're going to use it in your job. At least that's what is assumed when you're working in the program. So this is a good way of sharing that information and disseminating information on those topics. Let me move on. Yeah, and just wanted to go back to the goals again. I hope that I provided some of these. So I hope I gave you tips on how to use your LinkedIn as a professional portfolio. Learn a little bit about digital personal branding and digital reputation, and the methods that I've used. And I want to open it up to more of a conversation and questions. Any others? LinkedIn is fun. No?
I'm like, I'm just gonna bake your cookies and ask one-on-one.
I could, and I also printed out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if, like, I haven't been active at all, I don't even know what my percentage is. Before I start outreaching to people, should I be working on my profile, and then after I'm done, go that way?
Yeah, I highly recommend log into your LinkedIn, see where it is that your profile is at. Use some of these resources to try to, again, max out and then connect.
Okay.
Something that came up in another presentation I was in earlier is, you know, think about when you are connecting with students, or when a student is connecting to you, how is it that you're presenting yourself online? Like maybe you're responding to an email from last year. Probably not that good of an impact, or doesn't look that good. So definitely work on building the profile and then the connecting. And even after you start building the profile, you can even go into something I like to call listening mode, where you're just kind of feeling it out, like what's going on LinkedIn, or what's going on in other forms of social media, and then diving in and...
It's called lurking.
Lurking? Okay.
I have a question that might, go ahead. I got a question that applies to Andy too.
Yeah.
I know we have a lot of people that are focused on one area, like I do development programming, but I also do photography, and I don't have anything that highlights any of that. I just focused on my career, my programming in LinkedIn. Is there any way it can benefit with the photography or hobbies or things like that as well?
Definitely.
That would really benefit from networking.
Well, let me show you what my profile looks like. This is what I was talking about, how you can add your links and files. So you can showcase that in the experience section or projects.
And there's probably groups out there for you to join.
Yes.
Who has a similar interest.
I've got other things like blogs and things like that I use, but I didn't want to dilute the focus from the programming on the main profile.
It could still be a part of you, though. I mean, you're not two different people. You're just the same person that has two different interests. And put it in there.
It'd be interesting. That's so marketable. You can do all these things.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was actually curious how many people, I mean, is it fair to ask how many people in this room actually use LinkedIn actively? We all have accounts.
I have interest groups.
Very interesting.
that, you know, was kind of like a blog, or I learned from them, or a particular program I went to, and they started a LinkedIn group. And it's a little bit more professional than my Facebook groups.
Okay.
In praise of LinkedIn, there's a guy who runs the Santa Barbara Experience Unlimited group.
Yes.
Is a group of professionals who are in between jobs, looking for jobs, these are folks who are doctors, lawyers, and everybody in between. And I never met this guy, but we were connected through LinkedIn, and he messaged me through the InMail and asked if I would come give a presentation at one of the Santa Barbara Experience Unlimited meetings about personal branding on social media. So I did, and it was awesome. To get to meet folks who were super qualified, or just were looking for experience to promote themselves a little bit more. That wouldn't have happened if we weren't connected through LinkedIn. And he's through the, what do you call it? Employment agency, yeah. I know where it is downtown, it's on the street. But anyway, that happened because of LinkedIn, so it was very cool.
And sometimes those are those risks. I think I have the same connection. I have no idea who he is. But I went in for that challenge, and what I do is anytime I get a connection request, I will immediately, or not immediately, at some point within 48 hours, try to respond to them with a personal message and say, thank you for connecting on LinkedIn. I look forward to viewing your content. Please let me know if I can be of any support assistance. If you all connect with me, you'll get the same one. And to me, that's almost like ball's in their court now. You've already reached out, and they connected with you. Obviously, they may want something to do with you, but I went back and I was like, there you go. So if you need anything, contact me. It's a good way to shift blame. Yeah.
I'm not an active user of LinkedIn at all, really. I don't even have a picture up. But I'm planning on developing it more. But when it comes to submitting internships or applications for jobs, and not with LinkedIn, is it possible that they'll look at your LinkedIn and see that it's not as updated as the information that you sent them, and does that hinder your chances?
It can. It can. So I'm not sure what the statistics are, but employers and admissions departments are more monitoring social media in general. And I did this with a group earlier to see if you are you Googleable? And is it positive or negative? And LinkedIn, there are ways of managing your digital reputation, but LinkedIn is typically the one that comes up first. And if they notice that you're not too active on LinkedIn, they're like, is this even her? What is she all about? It says it looks like her, but she doesn't even care to update her profile. It can. It can. It's always better to have the opposite reaction and saying, wow, look at all this information. Look at what she's doing. Look at some of the projects that you're working on. I think I have, this is one of Brandon's videos that I added on there. And
I think it's a chance to have a real positive words in social media, because then they can see something really positive as opposed to trying to find you on Facebook and who knows what's on your. It's a way to capture you. I don't know if it would totally hinder you if it's not totally built out, but it's an opportunity.
it always helps, yeah.
Yeah, it could only help, especially if it's a positive page showcasing all your talents. But I think it would be worth it, especially where you're at.
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you need any samples or examples of what it is that I've done. I love these links, and I actually just updated some of the presentations. But they're great. They're easy to click on. If you have photography, anything, it's great to have up there. And I was just presenting from here, so I can you guys get that idea. Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me.